Carlos King is pissed that K.MICHELLE alleges that he was leading Porsha down the wrong road in an interview, and I have thoughts, y'all. Hey there, it's Anonymous Tea, where we spill the tea anonymously. Hello, everyone. Hello, YouTubers. Hope you guys are all having an amazing day today, sending good vibes, sending positivity, sending blessings, and good energy to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, anything I say is alleged and in my very, very personal opinion. This for entertainment purposes only. None of this is personal. The Copyright Act of 1976 is in the description box. Some meat and potatoes, some housekeeping items. So, today we were talking Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 17, and there's a lot of reaction to the part 1 of the reunion. In this particular video, we got to talk about K.MICHELLE's comment to Porsha in regards to her interview with Carlos King, in which Porsha said in that particular interview that K.MICHELLE chose the wrong team and is going to realize once the show is over, that she fed into, basically saying without saying, she fed into the delusions and the plotting and scheming of Shamea and her mom, and she'll see the light by the end of the tunnel, right? And obviously, K.MICHELLE did not like that and had said this.
You didn't even pay attention to what you were being fed in that interview. I didn't go in on you, but you sat and let him tell you. Tell me what? That I'm sitting on there bashing you. That's what he did. He led you right on into that. And he let you sit there. I can't be led in an interview like you knew, girl. I know nothing new about me. There's nothing new about me. You just learned how to speak. There's something new about your PR. There's something new about your PR training. I don't do that. There's nothing new about me, baby. At all. I have lived. I'm not PR trained. I'm not PR trained.
So I actually felt in the Carlos King interview that Porsha did, she set the tone. There was one question about Shamea in that whole interview, basically, and Porsha was like, listen, look at here. This is the only question I'm answering about Shamea, and all I'm going to say is this. She did something that went too far that y'all going to see in a future episode. And for those reasons, I'm out. For those reasons, you don't got to hear me say nothing else on no Shamea the rest of this interview. And we could talk whatever. We could talk about the other cast members on the show. We can talk about, you know what I'm saying? The weather outside. We could talk about whatever. But as far as Shamea, it is off limits, right? So that is on that. However, I can't stress enough that Kelly talking about Porsha a lot of the interview was not off limits. Shamea talking about Porsha most of her interview was not off limits. Just saying, they didn't want to follow that same philosophy because they knew that had that happened, people weren't going to pay attention to what they said. Anyways, let's get into what Carlos King had to say. As you guys know, Monday nights he has the reality with the King show with, his panel and all of the things. And they primarily recap the Bravo shows. But when his shows are on the air, they also talk about that as well. But I knew when Carlos King, I think he did like a short clip when he saw that at the reunion and said, well, I'm going to give my thoughts tomorrow, and y'all are not going to want to miss it, da-da-da-da. I knew he was going to be on smoke, so we are going to take a watch and listen. This clip is courtesy from Housewife from a Housewife, and we're going to get into it, y'all.
This is not about K.MICHELLE, so do not make this about her.
It's not, but she is, though. She's the one that made the comment and put you on blast. Let's continue.
And K.MICHELLE, when they send this to you, saying, I'm coming for you, I'm saying now this has nothing to do with you. That's number one. What I will say is I do find that when Black content creators, podcasters, journalists, or hosts do the same jobs as our white counterparts, we get labeled the messy definition more than our white counterparts do.
I mean, that's tale as old as time, though. That is tale as old as time that Black content creators are not going to get the same grace or the same level of respect as white counterparts do that are doing the same thing. Like we know all of that, but there is a reason that I'm going to let you cook for a second, but there's something else that we've got to get into as this continues to progress. Let's continue.
Yep.
And that to me is something that I do want people to understand. We have to get rid of that, right? We have to get rid of it because that shouldn't, in my opinion, all of what I do on my interviews is a privilege because I'm giving y'all shows the eyeballs that it needs. There's this erasure of Black reality shows. So you should be happy that someone even wants to interview you guys.
It's not about K.MICHELLE though, right, Carlos King? Even though I'm feeling the energy, it's not about K.MICHELLE, as you say, right? That if it's not for you, that these reality stars would not have any motion. They wouldn't be able to go viral for anything, right? If it wasn't for you, Carlos King. All right, let's continue.
Because when y'all interview other people, when y'all interview the white publications and the talk shows, no one cares. It doesn't go viral. I don't care how big they are. It doesn't go viral. No one gives a shit, right? So when you have someone like even the four of us every Monday taking time out of our evenings to comment on the show, yes, you could be pissed that you disagree with us, but God forbid we stop talking about these shows. And then you get mad when the shows get canceled, like Love and Hip Hop, Basketball Wives, etc., etc., etc.
This is interesting to me because specifically you felt a way about Black content creators as it pertained to Love and Marriage Huntsville reviews and recaps and reactions and all the things and all the sort. But because Bravo attracts a wider cast, a wider demographic of people, if you pick up what I'm putting down, it's not the same demographics as on the OWN network. K.MICHELLE's words have weight. And if there's potentially people like K.MICHELLE or others in the cast that you still have yet to interview, or perhaps maybe had wanted to interview again a following season or whatever the case may be, what happened with K.MICHELLE's comment is they're going to look up who she was talking about. They're going to do a quick search on the social media of it all and see that it was your interview with PORSHA that K.MICHELLE is referencing, and, you know, try to find out, okay, what was said and everything else. And that potentially, that comment can hurt you from other Bravo celebrities wanting to do interviews with you if K.MICHELLE is implying or putting out that narrative that you lead reality stars down the wrong road with your line of questioning, which we're going to get to, that potentially sets up for more chaos, more mess, and all of the things and all of the sort. Let's continue.
Amen.
When it comes to reality stars, I will say this: I, Carlos King, don't lead nobody to do anything, and I never have. When I asked Kelly about Shamia and K.MICHELLE, she said, "I'm not talking about it." I moved on. When PORSHA said, "I'm not talking about Shamia," I moved on.
Here's the thing. PORSHA knows at this point she's been a vet at this, and she was right in her response to K.MICHELLE that she can't be led like you new girls, right? She's not going to be set up for the okie doke. She knew that if she continued to entertain questions about Shamia, that the interview was no longer about PORSHA and it was going to be about Shamia. And PORSHA's not about that life. If you're here to interview me, let's talk about me. The reason Kelly did not want to answer your question, Carlos King, about the K.MICHELLE and Shamia of it all, because K.MICHELLE knows where the bodies are buried. K.MICHELLE has already exposed on social media and on the show that pretty much that Shamia and her mom were doing way too much, meeting outside of filming at a hookah lounge, squeezing her hand, begging for her not to spill secrets or be disloyal to Shamia, but sitting up there calling PORSHA and her mom every single name but the child of God. No. Kelly specifically, her job there on her interview with you was to back anything Shamia said or did, which included backing Shamia for how far she went in involving the moms into their beef. She had no problem with what Shamia said about Porsha's mom and all the things. And that told me everything I needed to know. But you also, in that interview, Carlos King, kept doing the whole, this is Porsha's show. Porsha runs the girls, da-da-da-da-da, which led to Kelly saying, I'm not bowing down to anybody. I'm not doing follow the leader and all of this and all of that. Yes, Porsha is quote unquote the face of the franchise, the star of the show and this and that. But when you present it that way to these other ladies in the cast, then they get defensive and start talking outside of their necks, right? Because even K.MICHELLE's doing that in her back and forth with Porsha and wants to knock Porsha down a peg or two. But Porsha said on your same interview, this is an ensemble cast. It's not about one star of the show. We need everybody on this show to make this work. But when you put Porsha on an island, this is your show, you're the star of the show, da-da-da-da-da, then you have the situation that what Porsha has is that Shamia for 2 seasons in a row is creating alliances to go after Porsha, to try to take Porsha down. And because it has not worked out, because it has backfired, now everybody's got a tail between their legs and they're trying to backtrack and do all this other foolishness, but they got to stay in the beef because now you've gone too far. And it didn't get the reaction or the response from your other castmates you were hoping for. So now y'all look silly. Let's continue.
Secondly, these reality stars, when they sit on my couch, let's have real conversation, they're ready to come for you. I don't have to lead a woman to do any motherfucking thing. I don't. They come in prepared to read y'all. I don't have to lead shit. And that's again, that's not about K.MICHELLE. It's just in general. I don't have to lead anybody to do anything. All these girls come on my show knowing it's going to get the eyeballs they need. It's going to go viral. And they're ready to really go and say what they have to say. But last but not least, what I will end by saying is, don't worry about who's leading the questions, because some of you reality stars allow y'all fans to lead y'all down the wrong road, having y'all go against people who actually have y'all back in real life.
Again, it's not about K.MICHELLE, but you're up here cussing. You know what I'm saying? You've got the energy. Here's the thing. I do not believe in the Porsha interview that Carlos King did with her that he was leading questions to get Porsha to say a certain answer. Porsha understands, everything that she says and does is going to carry weight. And if you don't give Shamia the attention that she is looking for, it's gonna be a nothing burger as far as the opposite, which was Shamia's interview, 80% being about Porsha. Her bringing up old receipts to present as new information to try to invent new ways about the friendship fallout, when the reality is you just didn't want to be this girl's friend anyways, but still wanted to platform yourself on the same show that she was on. No. Now, here's Carlos King. Here's the thing, right? And I also believe that, like I said, like I gave the example earlier where you kept saying, oh, this is Porsha show, this is Porsha this, Porsha that. Then it led to defense from, Kelly, well, I'm not going to bow down, or I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Here's the thing, right? Porsha was right that these new girls don't understand that when you do these interviews, there's a reason why a lot of them do not do many interviews anymore, because they understand that it could potentially set you up for some mess and some drama and some chaos. And we're not going to sit here and not act like that Kelly and Shamia are not doing fan service nonsense, are not going off of Twitter hot takes of a certain population of people that they know do not like Porsha, and they're hoping that they can bring that type of mess onto the show and get the reaction they're looking for, take Porsha's spot, or have a setup to where Kenya, you know what I'm saying, ended up, no longer on the show. And it has backfired. It has backfired tremendously. But the irony in Carlos King having this much of a stance, but fails to see the setup that took place on Love and Marriage Huntsville, on Love and Marriage DC, and all the things is where it is not landing for me. You were totally fine with your cast members on Love and Marriage Huntsville picking and choosing what they did or did not want to discuss on camera, what questions they did or did not want to answer, but expected Melody Cherie, you know what I'm saying? She had to lay it all out there on the line. She had to be the one to be the sacrificial lamb, to exhaust everything about her life, and was crucified for it, was ridiculed for it. And because she was so open about her life, y'all didn't want her popularity and her fan base and everything else to succeed anymore. Y'all got jealous. Y'all got insecure. Y'all got upset. Y'all got in y'all feels. And y'all were fine with no longer discussing a lot of y'all real lives and pushing false narratives and lies that were coming from Melody Cherie's ex, Martell Holt. And all of that was okay. And then you're talking about how these reality stars are quote unquote listening to the fans, but it was okay for you to utilize Melody Cherie's fans against her last season on the show, and incorporate Mel supporters and the Millimeters as a storyline to justify a cast member's restaurant closing when that was not the case. The reason the restaurant closed was their other tenants in that plaza were complaining about some issues, as well as them needing that inspection, you know what I'm saying, for goods and services that are required to be up to code for the restaurant to run, right? For the bar and lounge to run. Or how another cast member alleges and claims that she had to quit the show because of the fans. The fans just did so much. The fans were just so horrible. Only for her to be on another show doing the same tactics that she did on Love and Marriage Huntsville. So it's not the fans, it's you. It's that cast member. You know what I'm saying? And then when other cast members get upset with the little information that they provide, but even the little information they provide is problematic, is unhealthy, is toxic, you allow them, because they don't have anything that they're willing to discuss for real, they're not willing to discuss their real marital issues, you allow them to regurgitate the same storylines over and over and over every season. How is it fair that your cast members on because you said it's quote unquote your show, can allegedly say, you know what, I'm not going to talk about this around this particular cast member. If you ask me anything about this alleged DUI or whatever the case may be around this cast member, we're going to shut it down. We're going to shut it down, and it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. But then when Melody Cherie leaves the show, it's free game to regurgitate, make jokes, crack jokes, have it as a whole storyline the following season. No. So it's cool when you do it, Carlos King, on your shows to other black reality stars, but it's not cool when a black reality star that is on Bravo calls out the shenanigans. K.MICHELLE was right, but it was the wrong interview. She was right in what she said, but it was not the PORSHA interview. K.MICHELLE was upset because any Carlos King interview was going to get the clicks and views, and K.MICHELLE needed to hold herself accountable for saying F PORSHA in one interview and talking crazy on Twitter/X and going on that smear campaign against PORSHA in multiple interviews, only for PORSHA never to return that same energy back, but basically clocked K.MICHELLE that she fed into delusions of grandeur, all because of a Paris filming alliance that fell apart. And once K.MICHELLE saw how low Shamea was willing to go and bringing up PORSHA's mom and bringing up PORSHA's child and completely burning everything down, now you want to jump ship? No. And threatening to expose the depths of the plotting that y'all were doing in that hookah lounge? No. So it was a deflection tactic, but the reality was, in the PORSHA interview, PORSHA was not led at all. PORSHA was not led at all, but let's not act like, in some of those questions towards Shamea and Kelly, that it wasn't intentionally being led to push a certain narrative about PORSHA so you could get the pushback in their response that you were looking for, that you knew that the people were going to eat up, because specifically in those thumbnails, it's about PORSHA and Shamea's friendship ending. In Kelly's thumbnail, it's about, I'm not about to play no follow the leader to no PORSHA. And that's why the people tuned in, because they know that it was going to be a shade fest on Shamea and Kelly's part against PORSHA. Except for the things that they were standing 10 toes down about is not beneficial to them, is not in their favor. Make it make sense, but it's just interesting. Yes, there are things Carlos King is right about in this, but then when you apply it to his own shows on OWN, like Love and Marriage Huntsville, that is where the argument falls flat for me. But because Love and Marriage Huntsville is not getting the same viewership as Bravo, is not on the platform that Bravo has that opens, like I said, to a wider demographic, if you pick up where I'm putting it down, Carlos King isn't going to say anything, right? But because it's on Bravo and because K.MICHELLE put it out there, that potentially can, have certain Bravo celebrities, look back at Carlos King interviews and potentially decide, you know what, maybe it's not a good look for me to do this interview. Maybe it's not a good look for me to go on his platform to do an interview if what K.MICHELLE is saying is true. And that is what he's really pissed about, is future bookings for Bravo celebrities that might say thanks but no thanks because of what K.MICHELLE said. But she technically was not wrong. She just had the wrong interview. And she couldn't come up with anyone else. But it wasn't the interview PORSHA did with Carlos King, and I stand on that. She was not being led by anything. But I can't say the same for the Shamea and Kelly interview and some of those questions. Like we got to keep it a buck. And we can't say the same thing when it comes to Love and Marriage Huntsville on how certain cast members easily get protected and are allowed to choose what they want to share and not want to share. But others were expected to lay everything out there on the table, regardless. And still have people coming from them every which way. So that is all that I have for this video. I need y'all to do me the biggest favor, and that is to hype the video. Hype the video, please. Hype the video like you never hyped a video before in your life. There's that. That is it. That is all. Es todo es final. Es finito. Es the end the road. It's the end the line for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment I post new content on my channel. And with that being said, I'll talk to you guys again very soon.